Okay, hello everyone. We're just gonna wait a few minutes and we'll start the live. I just want to make sure that the sound is okay, that you can hear me properly. So if you can write down on the chat and say whether it's okay. I know we have viewers on YouTube and LinkedIn, so let's wait just a few minutes. Okay, super. Okay, great. Let's wait a few minutes for a few more viewers to be connected, and we'll start the live. The live. Okay, so we've got 10 views on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and a few also on YouTube. So I think we're good to go. So firstly, thank you everyone for joining this first workshop in our LinkedIn, and it's one of, I think we haven't done a lot of workshops in English, so it's quite interesting and quite nice for the international community, which is growing every day in data scientist. So for to give a bit quick introduction as to who we are for those people who are watching and who don't know what data scientist is. And data scientist is a group which basically forms people in data. So up until today, we are present in Spain, Germany, and France, and we offer courses in data analytics, data scientist, data engineer, and data manager, as well as other more expert courses. But we don't have them developed in all countries up until today. So today, as you some of you may know, we've got a career management team, which whose objective is basically to help you get a job after your training in data scientist. So of course for us the main thing is that theory is learned and practice is learned, but we don't just leave you there. We also allow you and help you to see how you can improve your skills, your CV, your presence in interviews, and in a way or another, help you get your dream job. So today's topic is how to smash your interview. I think it's one of the most asked questions when when we're applying to a job. Okay, I apply, and then you get the interview and you're a bit lost. So the objective is to help you, and we're also going to speak about a few subjects like how to sell yourself and how to write a good CV. But the main topic will be how to smash your interview. So what's the timeline of the presentation? So we're going to give a bit of an introduction as to what these interviews are and how they happen, the preparation of the interview, before the interview, the day before the interview, during the interview, behavioral questions, what they are, and after the interview. Okay, so first of all, when you've passed the interview stage, it's already a good thing. So well done if you've had recently, or if you're on that stage where HR has contacted you for an interview. Normally, how it works is you apply to the role either through LinkedIn or Indeed or any other application website, job application website, and HR will scan your CV. If the HR looks at your CV and likes your profile and sees that your experience could match the profile or the job requirement, they will actually get in touch with you, and this can either be through a phone or an in-person interview. Now, one of the main things to understand about this type of interview is that it's exploratory and not technical. Okay, so a topic I would like to highlight here is around the topic of your CV. You need to understand that as HR recruiters receive millions and millions of application every day. Hence, the importance of making your CV extremely not simple but structured, and highlighting your experience, your work experiences, your education, and also volunteering and other interesting aspects of what you like doing in your free time, etc. What I'm trying to say is that a CV cannot be very long. Okay, my tip is do it one page long. Structure it well. Where did he study? What did he study? Maybe your grades, your work experience, and then maybe other interests or volunteering that you may have done. Now, I don't want to get into this topic a lot because different countries have different requirements. If you're applying to a job in the UK, a picture is not required. A photo of yourself is not required, and sometimes it's not even good to add a picture. But in France, it's not the case. Germany, I'm not sure, so I don't want to get into the details. But generally, there is this. It's important to be well structured, clear, simple, and concise when citing your experiences. Now, before the interview, so this is what we call the preparation stage. And if there's one word I could use to help you with this stage, is research. Okay, so my number one tip would be Google the name of the company and even the CEO to try and find recent interviews or articles where the CEO may have been speaking. This is a great place to get a feel for the vision of the company, feel the strength of leadership, and picking up a talking point when you meet your interviewer. Another thing I would say is try and find some common link, like a previous or familiar company, to provide a good talking point when you first meet the interviewer. Try looking at their LinkedIn activity, as this will normally give an indication of what someone is interested in and can provide you with some good small talk points on mutual topics. So, obviously, I'm not saying go on their Instagram and if they have a cat, talk about cats because it's irrelevant. But if they, for example, if you're applying for a beauty industry and you see that the HR recruiter has recently liked an article about sustainability and beauty goals in 2024, then maybe you can talk about sustainability in the interview, because this will make the recruiter understand that actually you are interested in the industry, that you actually look into the articles of the company, and of course, if the recruiter likes this article, it means that he obviously likes the idea, and that will make well, it's a common professional point, which is really, really good. Another thing I would say is study your CV. Almost every interview will ask you about your CV, so it's critical that you actually know what's in it. This is why when I was talking about your CV, I kind of highlighted make it simple and concise. Sometimes talking about 1 million experiences is not positive. Sometimes it's better to select, especially if you've been working for 10 years. You need to ask yourself, is there a point to actually highlight this work experience in my CV and talk about it during the interview? So, spend some time during your research to review your CV to ensure that you know that any potential questions can actually come arise, and familiarize yourself with the sections that people are more likely to talk about, such as your previous employment history. um Another thing is, before the interview, you might find interesting articles or interesting news about the company, and you might want to actually mention them during the interview. Now, it doesn't. It is. It's not about just talking about these interesting articles or news at any point in the interview. Find the right moment. find the right moment, and but make sure you write down these interesting points and you mention them when the conversation arises, when you can actually talk about them. Just don't just like throw them in the conversations just to show that you're proving that you've done research, because recruiters do notice when candidates do that, and it's not very positive. Okay, so that's before the interview. Now, things that I would say are very important before the interview is, one of them is being yourself. You need to identify your strengths and weaknesses, and you need to be able to also identify your emotions and instinctive reactions. Refocus on your priorities and values, and analyze your mistakes. Okay, when you are doing when you're in the interview, we've all done mistakes in the past, either professionally or even on a personal note, and it's okay. But we need to be able to recognize this, and even learn how to sell ourselves with these mistakes. Okay? You need to answer the following questions to yourself. What is your main goal for your next job? What type of tasks and roles would you like to perform? What type of company am I looking for? Okay, so you find the links between your strengths and weaknesses, but also the company. Yeah. So when you do some research about the company, you need to really, really, really know these. You need to be able to answer these questions. When was the company founded? How many people work for the company? Is it a big company? Is it a startup? Because all of this is important to understand the culture of the company. What is the strategy for the future? Who are the partners? Who has invested in the company? What is their vision, their mission, their values, their value proposition? What are they offering to customers, their competitors? What is the latest news about them? What technology do they use? What tools are they working with? Who is their CEO, the head of HR? And you might even want to know who are all the potential candidates applying to this position, because it's important to know that, you're not the only one who's going through the interview processes. So you want to know that, you in a way, you're a better profile. Always keeping in mind that you need to be yourself, that you need to not lie about your experiences, and of course, most importantly, knowing how to sell yourself even with these weaknesses. Okay, now another tip I would say, the day before the interview, some tips I would give is rehearse the conversation. Yes, either with your partners, your parents, your siblings, anyone, yourself. Just rehearse the conversation. Sometimes you might think you're ready for the interview. Written notes are not the same as oral notes, meaning that when you speak, you really need to make sure that you know what you're talking about. And sometimes when you've just read it, this is not enough. I've rehearsed this presentation before presenting it now, because even though I thought I was ready, when I actually presented it to myself, I saw that I wasn't sure of what I was talking about. So go over your notes, prepare some key questions, and of course, if it's an in-person interview, plan your outfit. It's important to go accordingly to the culture of the company. If you're applying for a startup, maybe it's more of an informal outfit than if you're going to, for example, to apply to, I don't know, L'Oreal or a bank. Okay. So, during the interview. So, first of all, you need to keep the formal tone, and you need to focus on the job. Very important is highlighting constantly the descriptions of what the job requires. You highlight it so that you keep focus on the job description. You need to be able to answer the simpler questions. Why do you want to join this business? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to do, not want to do in your role? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And again, if this question comes across, what are your strengths and weaknesses? It's not just highlighting your strengths, but also what are your weaknesses, and even how are you improving these weaknesses? How perhaps a course in data analytics has allowed you to improve these weaknesses. It's not just avoiding the question to not sell yourself, it's actually highlighting the fact that you identify this weakness and that you're working on it. But you should also be able to answer more direct and aggressive questions. Why did you choose to train a data scientist? Why at this time in your life? What brought you to this point? Why do you want to be a data analyst, a data scientist, data manager, or a data engineer? What do you like most, least about the job? Why should we hire you? This is a question that, okay, why you and why not another candidate? And you need to be able to answer these questions by selling yourself. Now, another thing that is important is behavioral questions. Okay. So, what is a behavioral question? A behavioral question is a question which is designed to prove your past experience to determine how you might behave in similar situations in the future. And this is based on the theory that past performance is the best predictor of future behavior. And this is something big, especially big companies do in interview processes, because it allows the interviewer to understand your instinct reaction, how you would react in certain situations. So, an example of a behavioral question is: give an example of a goal you achieved and tell me how you achieved it. Or give an example of a goal you did not achieve and tell me how you handled it. Or describe a stressful situation at work and how you handled it. So, for example, I remember when I was applying for one of my first jobs, I didn't have a lot of work experience. So, I actually did this, I answered this behavioral question using a university project case where basically I identified a problem in a group project. Basically, the task was not getting done, and we had a deadline, and no one in my group was actually, doing anything to handle the task. So what I did was a pyramid of responsibilities where I divided the pyramid in four kind of responsibilities with a hierarchy of responsibilities, and this allowed people to kind of identify their tasks and understand that if the pyramid wasn't completed by the end of the deadline, then the project would not be able to be completed. So this is what we call, a behavioral question. How did you perform? How did you react? And what was the result? The result was finally we got the project. The project was actually handled in time, and we got a really good result. Okay, so basically this when an interviewer will ask you a behavioral question, think of the star method, which is basically the situation, which in this case was, well, we were a group of four people, we had a deadline, it was an important project, and the project wasn't getting done by anyone. The task, what did it involve, what did I do, which is the action, and then the result. Okay, so through the pyramid of responsibilities, everyone identified um the key responsibilities of every person, and the actual job was done. Okay, so this is, I would always keep the star method on mind whenever you're going through an interview process. And these is a classic of companies. How did you react to the situation? How did you overcome it? And there's more questions on weaknesses and challenges than successes. So be ready to think of a situation where it was negative, but the outcome was finally positive. Okay, some of the tips I would definitely give is try to be clear and consistent. Before the interview, you need to be sure of your resume and know it by heart. You can prepare yourself by, for example, making a list of your past experiences and successes that highlight the list of skills, abilities, and attributes you want to highlight. Then I would say focus on your answers and get to the point. Try to answer the interview's questions exactly. Finish your answer by summarizing and restating your response to the question. This is something that happens a lot because we have an answer on mind that we've prepared in advance. We usually, run away from the question and answer something different to what the actual interviewer is asking. So no, You need to focus on the answer and get to the point. Okay. And another thing I would say is answer the questions with examples. Instead of explaining theoretically the approach that you would take to bring improvements and ideas to the team and the company, show how you would do it. Sketch an idea of how you would approach solving a problem and explain your thought process. This is not only an unexpected way to show your skills, but also your ability to think on your feet. Okay. People remember stories better than facts. So that's why using examples is always better than just stating a fact or something that we already know. Another thing I would say is incorporating the company's values into your answers. Show that you understand the company's values by directly addressing how you would approach a particular problem or situation through the lens of those values. So it's important, for example, if the company shares a value of, I don't know, of, you know, culture, or culture is very important, or let's say, I don't know, accepting everyone in the company, then mention this in one of your examples. Mention the fact that accepting everyone in the company as they are is important. It's not a very good example. What I'm trying to say is, when when you go in the website of the company, you will go on culture and values, and you will understand what the company stands for. So you could use this as examples to show that you've understood the company's values. List skills, attributes, and abilities. Behavioral interview questions will give you the opportunity to showcase your talent, abilities, and results. To prepare, you need to think about the type of skills the company is looking for. Most companies are looking for similar skills, attributes, and abilities, such as communication. Are you a team player? Ability to focus, time management, flexibility, attention to detail, management and leadership ability, creativity, goal orientation, and accountability. So basically, list these skills and mention the skills that you think the company is looking for. Also, take a moment to rank the list you came up with in relation to the position you're applying for, and keep them in mind when responding. Okay. Um, okay. Now, there's always the key question, and it happens in like 98% of interviews, is, do you have any questions? The key answer is yes. Do not say no. Always have some questions prepared, either about things that were communicated during the interview or questions that you've prepared beforehand. Here's the moment where you will actually talk about articles, news of the company that you had this on mind. So you link a question to this article that you've read. Never say no, I don't have any questions, because it just shows that you're not that interested in the role. Never say no, I think it's okay. These questions may be about the company structure, culture, or management, or questions specific to the position, including its scope, the responsibilities, what are the expectations, what do you expect from the candidate if, for example, I get the job. Or if you don't have any questions, ask about personal experience with the organization, the team, how a team's structured. But of course, and this is something that I've done in past interviews, I ask stupid questions just for the sake of asking a question. That's not the point. The point, when you don't have questions, when you don't have a specific question on the company, or you don't have a very interesting question to ask, maybe talk about the organization of the team. How many teams are there in the company? What team would I be part of? And that's already including yourself in the team, and would potentially increase the chances that they will recruit you. And of course, the most important thing, after the interview. So, a recruiter wants to know that you're a serious candidate, truly interested in the position and the company. So, the best way to show your interest is to ask questions after the interview, as explained above. In addition to these questions, the most important question to ask after the interview is, what is the next step in the interview process. That's showing the interest that the recruiters are looking for. Unless you've already been told, this question shows that you're interested in moving forward with the position. Maybe because you were nervous, the recruiter got a feeling that you're not very down for the role, that you're not very pleased with how the interview went. You never know when you're nervous. You never know what you were actually transmitting to the recruiter. Everyone likes to feel wanted, and your future employer is no different. So when you ask what is the next step in the interview process, you're already making the person understand that you're actually interested in the position. The answer can also give you an insight into how your interviewer feels about you as a candidate. It is also important to follow up. If possible, reach out to your interviewer to send a thank you email. By following up, you're reminding your interviewer not only of your appreciation, but also of your interested in the company and the position, and that you're a strong, qualified candidate for the position. Okay, so this is a common mistake that we're like, oh my god, interview didn't get back. I remember for one of my first jobs, I didn't get a reply from the HR recruiter till 3-4 months after. I remember I sent over 4 to 5 emails saying, are there any updates, are there any updates? And you know what, the outcome in the end turned out to be positive because I got the job. You shouldn't be ashamed to send an email asking, are there any news? It's not because they haven't replied that they're not interested in your profile. You need to go for that email that shows that you're interested in. And even if sometimes what happens is that maybe the position is no longer available or they found another person. But if the recruiter has a good taste and has a good feeling with you and they had a good interview with you, maybe there's some other roles that will come up in the future and they will think of you and they will see your name and say, oh, this person was actually really good in this. Maybe I could recommend them to the team. So don't be scared to, send an email after the interview and even months after the interview. Of course, it's always good, I would say, to even add a few months later the interview on LinkedIn. This is like a small connection that you make that can be useful anytime in the future. So yeah. So that's one of that's basically almost everything for today. I wanted to share also an article that I actually just read before starting the presentation on LinkedIn, which was quite interesting. If I find it, 1 second. Let me just check if I can do that. 2 seconds. I'm trying to share my screen. Mm-mm-mm. Will I be able to? If I can't, I'm just gonna, it's basically an article which okay, I don't know why I can't share my screen again. But anyways, it's an article I saw on LinkedIn by an editor at LinkedIn News, talking about responding to an interviewer's mistake. So sometimes awkward interviews happen. Knowing how to respond when an interview makes a mistake is very important. For example, if they arrive late to your meeting and apologize, saying it's okay is very negative. No, you respond straight away. I'm so glad to meet with you, as opposed to say simply it's okay because it's a recruiter. You don't want to, you're not meant to excuse the recruiter. Also, if the interviewer mispronounces your name, it's better to correct them politely as soon as it happens, because it gets really awkward after, and the interviewer will feel a bit, in a way, stupid if you don't if you know if that the recruiter hasn't corrected the mistake from the beginning. You should also avoid answering questions that are inappropriate, maintain a positive outlook at all times, and ask about the next steps to prevent being ghosted. So again, this thing of, asking about the next steps to prevent being ghosted is important. I'm going to put the link of the article, yes, on the chat so you can have a look at it. There's a video as well to it. And it's quite interesting because it's exactly what we were talking about during the presentation. Please ask any questions you may have. I'm here to answer any questions, so Q&A is open. I'm going to leave a few minutes for any questions you may have. Okay, so I think there are no questions. But anyways, thank you so much for everyone who was here. I hope this was useful. We've had a lot of viewers, so I'm really happy. And I think the next workshop we will do is how to write a good CV. Let me know what you think. Um, Can you talk about the technical part of the interview for data analyst? What type of questions we will receive and what is expected? Okay, so to be clear, I'm not a data analyst, a data scientist, or a data engineer. But if I can, I know a bit about the job. So a data analyst, for example, the main tasks of a data analyst is all to do with Python, data visualization, a bit of machine learning. There's a big module on Power BI and SQL from my understanding. So when they ask you about technical questions, just 1 second, let me go back to my okay. So basically when they ask you about, for example, technical when you talk about the technical part of the interview for a data analyst, they will ask you about these skills. So for example, to talk about a project where Power BI was involved. So maybe I know in DataScientest during the course you take part of a project where you apply all the theory you're learning and convert it into practice. So maybe you could talk about this Power BI section, how you applied the Power BI tool into a real case of a company. So that's for to answer your question, Paul. The technical part of an interview for a data analyst, honestly, we can apply this to any other jobs, data scientist, data engineer. It's basically taking the main part of the course, so what you've learned and how you've applied it to perhaps a company case or a real case project. And I don't know if that answers the question, but I would say that. Ahmed, you also said you have a question. If you can write it on the chat. Okay, I was wondering about answers for the important questions of why should we hire you for someone changing careers from engineering to data. Okay, so this is an interesting question. I had the case with one of our actually Juan, if I'm allowed to mention. Juan would say that, for example, during the pandemic, had like a slight career change. In his mind, where he decided to get introduced into this data analytics world. So, to answer your question, why should we hire you for someone changing careers from engineering to data? So one of the answers you could I think something that has changed people's lives in terms of changing careers from engineering to data, for example, has been the pandemic. We've realized the importance of data analytics in our lives. We've seen an a massive, massive demand of data analysts, data engineers, data scientists in today's world. And this has been during the pandemic that people have had the time to think, to form, to train themselves through courses in data, and throw themselves into the world of data analytics. So I was thinking about the previous experience in data analysis as I'm an architect and exchange to data. Yeah. So to be honest, I also my background also is quite different to from the data world, and I've been working in data science for 1 year. It's not about your past experiences, even if they're not linked to your future work experience, it's fine. Okay. When a company is not just looking for that specific skill of a data analyst. You can, for example, say that to be a data analyst, you have to be very attention to detail, that it's all about analyzing data in big quantities. And maybe when you were an architect, you also had to be attention to detail. You also had to, analyze, I don't know, objects. I'm not an architect. I don't know exactly what kind of material an architect needs. But what I'm trying to say is that you can link an ability that he has as an architect to what a data analyst requires to be. This can be the attention to detail part, the part where you need to focus on small details to achieve a result, and that is the part of the task of a data analyst. I don't know if that answered your question a bit, but you should always link your strengths in your past experience to what the next work experience requires. Nathan says, I'm a physicist, 3 years of teaching experience, 2 postdocs. How should I justify myself getting a career change to data science? So again, honestly, there's no right or wrong answer. Teaching experience, again, you need to be patient. You were into the education world where there's massive, massive documents of data from so many students. So again, you can talk about the that you saw the need, and that you've seen the need whilst teaching, that getting all these data from different students is important, has showed you that visualize data visualization is important, and allows you to get results in a easier way and in a faster way. So it's not about, there's no right or wrong answer. It's about how your skills as a teacher can be adopted for a data analytics job. Are there still any job prospects in data science after being for so long in academics? Of course, there are so many prospects in so many fields in data, because nowadays there's a huge demand for all the jobs in data. Okay, it's one of the sexiest jobs right now. So, and you can apply data for any industry, for any industry. It's all about data, and we have more and more data every day. So, it's not. It's. I wouldn't say it's a problem just because you've been in academics for so long. So, I think if that answers your question. So if you have any other questions, what I'm going to do, if you want, I'm going to write my email. If you have any other questions you might have about changing industries, etc., you can email me, and maybe we can have a conversation and see how we could help. So I'm going to write just my email. Um, And anyways, so thank you everyone for participating. It's been super interesting. And again, you can add me on LinkedIn for any other questions, or email me directly. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.